I'm out here working today, and I had a quick thought about God's watching of us, the concept that He knows everything, He sees everything, and as such, we're taught always make sure you will be found doing the right thing. I was listening to a guy on the radio the other day, and he said, every idle word, we will be held to account for every idle word. And this is a teacher that was a day or two later, he was trying to explain to somebody, hey, you can't take the Bible literally. God doesn't actually sit on a physical throne, or there's not actual dragons and seven-headed beasts coming up out of the ocean. And although I agree with him that there are parts you take literally, there are that are metaphorical, I found it curious that he, and I'm not pointing a finger at him because I've done it myself in the past, that we, as we mature, we pick and choose the things we take literally. And we do it with, with the information we have. We do it the best we can. I'm not here so much as a critique today to provide a critique, but as to observe, because I should probably put this in more of the videos. I've held a lot of these beliefs that I'm now kind of picking apart. And I believe that I am qualified to pick them apart because I've held them. And so I can see a little more clearly. I'm not just pointing over there, I'm really pointing at myself when I say a lot of these things. So, from the standpoint of God sees everything you do, and He knows everything you do, therefore, you must always try to be godly. Right from the get go, you're destroyed because you know, well, my goodness, I'm not even aware of all my sins, and I try not to be aware, because if all I was aware of, if I was constantly made aware of every single sin, I mean, being aggravated in traffic, that's a sin. If you're angry, if you're upset, if you're frustrated, if you're mad, if you're thinking thoughts that you shouldn't be thinking, you do a poor job. Say you're in the office, you're in the basement, you're in wherever, no one can see, and you just kind of, you skirt something because no one's going to see it, but God does. God sees every single thing you do. There's a purpose behind that. Apparently, He wants us to know that He sees everything we do so that we will stop doing bad things. And I used to believe that. I think, well, if I could just always be aware that He's right there looking at me, it'll straighten me out. It'll straighten me out. I'll stop acting bad. I'll stop doing bad things. And, you'll just get better and better and better all the time, because as the more aware you are of Him watching, I mean, at first it'll be like, well, you'll quit stabbing and knifing people if you're in the business of doing that. And then you'll stop doing drugs, and then you'll stop smoking cigarettes, and then you'll stop biting your nails, and then you'll stop snapping at your spouse, and then you'll stop doing something shifty in the basement or in the office when no one's looking, and then you'll just be like the best employee that ever was. Because I've heard that one, we should be the best employees that ever were. And I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying, I'm making a point about the motivation, where that comes from. Because when I was out here and I was working, I was blowing the leaves and stuff, which is part of the job I do. And I was thinking, wow, is God watching me? In kind of a humorous way, but still, I was thinking, is He impressed with the job I'm doing? Is he thinking, wow, that's a good job, Mark? You really, you that one leaf was kind of stuck there, and you kept at it until it blew out of the mud it was stuck in. The point is God's watching everything, right? Everything is everything. Or is He only watching the things that have a moral aspect to them? So He can rest His eyes, so to speak. Oh, Mark's just blowing leaves. If he does a cruddy job, hey, that's between him and his boss, right? And you start asking all these silly questions like, well, where does He draw the line? Where is it this between you and this other person? And where's God involved? And on and on and on. To what degree where's the importance? Is this moral? Is this civil? Is this some technical thing? And we get into parsing words and splitting hairs. And none of it has to do with just the fact that your Father loves you. And to what extent He goes with you, it seems to me, has more to do with you inviting Him in. And if you're cringing at the notion of Him being there, because I believe He is a gentleman, maybe He would just rather let you sort it out. Because if you're not to the point in your maturity where you can say, Father, I have this issue. Can you be here with me so I can so I can work this out? Can you help me get understanding? As opposed to, oh my God, I got to do this right or else Father's going to be mad. He's going to be so ticked off at me. And you're walking around in eggshells all day long like that, which leads to one of two things. You either walk around guilty and ashamed, knowing what a failure you are if you're an honest person, or somehow by comparing yourselves to others, which is still inaccurate because we're so tainted in how we look at things, somehow you develop this opinion that, well, I may not be 100%, but man, I'm so much better than them. And then you get this horrible, horrible sin of religious pride. So those are basically the only two things that can result from the notion of the all-knowing God, who is the one carrying the basket of blessings in one hand and the whooping stick in the other, and he's just waiting for you to behave one way or the other so he can bless you or smite you. And it just doesn't work. And it doesn't make any sense, for one thing, because I believe that anything we have in this world, God offers in its perfect form. So I have friendships, I have siblings, I have parents, I have all these different kinds of relationships, and they are good to different degrees. The thing is that God offers it in an absolutely perfect form. So my God offers me his fatherhood in an absolute perfect form, his guidance, his counsel, his comfort, his love, his teaching, his acceptance in an absolutely perfect sense. So of course, whether I'm out there and I'm trying to get off my job as being a hitman, or I'm just trying to be a better leaf blower, whatever it is, the point is he's there to help me. He's not there to mark it down and to check it off in the good column or the bad column so that later we can play back the videotape on the big heavenly big screen, and so I can account for every single thing. Because I haven't done a study on that particular verse that we will be held account for every idle word. I seriously doubt that it means it in the sense that it is taught and in the way that man was teaching the other day. Then he took it literally, that every single word you will be held to account for, because otherwise how in the name of the Lord are we ever going to make it? There's just simply no way. And I realized that, well, no, he's my father. He's here. He's helping me in the big things and the small things. And hey, he might actually let me figure things out sometimes. Fathers also do that. I'm not trying to compare him to an earthly father. I'm just saying that he doesn't have to meddle all the time. He can let me figure some things out. And since he knows that I am in his hand and nothing can snatch me from his hand, it's very possible, at least consider this if you don't believe it. If you think God is micromanaging every last atom in the universe so that there's not one rogue atom anywhere doing anything without him managing it, consider the possibility that not only scripturally, but just in a realistic sense, he obviously does let us do things. He doesn't want people to hurt each other, but they do. They do. That's not him managing it, I hope. But I guess there's people that think he is managing that. I don't know. I don't know how you come to that. I used to have a form of that thought, but I think it wasn't fully formed, because the more I formed it, the more I realized that just doesn't make sense. There's no way God was in the Holocaust, so to speak. Or in some brutal act of violence against another human being. God is here, and it is not me that dictates when he is here, how he is here. He's living a life just like I'm living a life, and he's going to live it according to his idea of how things should be done. And I believe by default that means he can't do wrong. Otherwise, if he does wrong, then we have a misperception of what God is, because he's the creator. How can he make mistakes? The point is, though, he allows us to make mistakes, and he's here to help, to teach, to comfort those who want to accept that help, teaching, and comforting, and fathering, and whatever else it is that he offers, which is everything. He offers life. It says he is the way, the truth, and the life. He is our life. So I'm still learning to let him be my life, and in the process, I'm going to skin my knees. I'm going to do things. I'm going to forget. I'm going to not reach out when maybe I should have. I believe he's still there. That's my belief. And I believe the Bible backs me up on that. He says he doesn't reject you. He doesn't forsake you. He doesn't forget you. That's not what it's all about. But before I knew him, it would kind of make sense to say that I was on my own. I'm not saying he didn't protect me at different times. He very well may have, but that had nothing to do with our relationship. Maybe he did have some plans in the future. I like to think so. That's a nice thought to think that my father knew I was going to come to him eventually, so he kind of protected me from killing myself. And I'd have some stories about that that would kind of, if not verify, indicate that, because I'm not under the influence of Darwin. This is not a 50-50 proposition when it comes to my life or death. I know I'm here by some sort of grace. And now that I am here and I know my father, I believe that, like I said previously, he is living a life and he is allowing me to live my life. And he welcomes me in to live my life with him. And during that process, I am learning more and more. Sometimes I invite him in. Sometimes I am accepting his presence or inviting it in. Sometimes I forget. And sometimes maybe I don't want it so much because the old creeps in. Oh my God, he's watching me. But I'm getting freer from that every day. I like to think he's drawing us all that way. He's drawing us all towards a sense of intimacy where we can say, my father loves me. I don't need to be running around worrying about him smiting me. But unfortunately, because the blessings, the potential blessings is so attractive, and you can't have one without the other, right? You can't have the possibility of blessings without the possibility of getting smacked around. I mean, they'll pretty much basically teach you that in one form or another in church. It's just right. If he can bless you, he has to have the right to smack you around. People don't want to let go of it. They don't want to let go of it because then they have a certain amount of control over their God. Just like on the forgiveness thing. I was listening to Aaron once. He illustrated so perfectly about if the notion of 1 John 1:9 as getting your forgiveness continually through your confession, if that's the real meaning of that, then God is now waiting on you. And so he put it in a comical way, I thought, but a very accurate way to illustrate it. God was out there waiting for me to ask him to forgive me, to confess my sins. And, I did. I mean, at first I had breakfast because I wanted to have breakfast first. And then I asked him. It, it's absurd. It's absurd. But that's what we're taught. That is what we're taught. We are the ones in control, God, who is the alternately smiting and blessing God. Whereas when he is the God who gave you everything, who gave you his heart and says, here I am. I love you. You are mine. I am yours. Let's walk together. Let's live together. Let's explore. Let me see through your eyes. Look through my eyes. Hear through my ears. I want to hear through yours and see through yours. Let's live this life and see what happens. Just like it was in the garden. Here's an animal, name it. Here's a job, Mark. Here's a person, Mark. Do what you can with this. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this all works out. Let's do this together. The together is the point because you already have everything you need. So why are you going to ask for something? I'm not saying I never ask for anything. I'm in pain or someone I love is in distress. I ask God to help out in the situation. The point is that's not the basis of my relationship. The basis of my relationship is my father and I are walking together, and I'm enjoying this time with him. It's an amazing time because every day I get a little bit closer and I know a little bit more. And there's no expectations. I really believe that. There's no expectations. I don't believe he has any expectations from me, and I don't have any from him. I have zero expectations of my God. I guarantee you that. That never really made any sense to me. I think that's why I was able to accept grace because I wasn't taught that I was given everything. But once I found out that I have been given everything, just like it says in the Bible, 2 Peter 1, 3 or 4, it says that. And then in Ephesians, Paul says that we have all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ. All spiritual blessings. What other thing do we need? Everything that pertains to life and godliness, Peter said in that previous passage I mentioned. If that's true, if we have that, what else do we need? What else can we expect to get? Well, conventional denominational religion isn't gonna focus on those two scriptures at all, because they're gonna focus on you getting the things that you want. And how do you get them? Of course, by being in the building, paying tithes and offerings, and doing all kinds of service they claim unto God, whereas God came to serve you. That's what it really is. He came to give of himself to you. And once you know that, once you know you have everything, it is about living a life. Just like if you had a friend, you wouldn't You wouldn't base your relationship with your friend or your father or your brother or anyone on expectations of what they're going to give you and what you're going to do for them so that they'll love you or care for you or hopefully not hurt you. That's not what any kind of relationship is based on. So that's what I just wanted to share today. And Jesus, I hope you're pleased with my leaf blowing. I'm working at it. I'm doing the best I can. But more than anything, I'm just happy that you're with me, and I can feel your presence every day a little bit more, and I get a little bit closer, and get a little bit more of your wisdom because I know there's no wisdom here. I'm just happy you offer it so freely, and I hope that someone out there gets some of it. In Jesus' name, amen.